Hey guys, we are Peter and Lisa, foster parents to a sibling group of 3, and we are going to talk about again today what Christians need to know about foster care. This has been a video idea that we've had for quite some time, and when we sat down and laid it all out, we realized it was too much for one video. So in part 1, we talked about getting too attached and how that's actually a good thing, as well as that foster care's primary purpose is not adoption. And in this video, we're going to be talking through other ways that you can get involved if you're not a foster parent, and that foster care, it is spiritual warfare. In the last video and also in this video, we're going to be bringing up reframing foster care, filtering your foster parenting journey through the lens of the gospel. We feel that even if you are not planning on being a foster parent, this is a great book for every Christian to read.
Highly recommend it.
Really puts the picture of foster care and the gospel together.
In the last video, we mentioned how there are about 400,000 kids in the foster care system and about 380,000 churches in the United States. So we can give all these kids a home very quickly if just one person from each church were to step up. So maybe you're thinking, okay, well, being a foster parent is not necessarily for me. I don't think that that is something that I should do or whatever. You know, the bottom line is we're not trying to say that, okay, everybody should do this. Like, you know, in a way, yes, like we should all care about, you know, kids, yes, but God does call all of us to different things. Like we need janitors, we need police officers, we need teachers, we need everybody. We need firefighters, engineers, software developers. We need people doing everything. We're not saying like, hey, okay, take whatever you do full time and do this as well. Some of you, yes, that'd be great and you can do that, and then some maybe not. So we're gonna cover a bunch of other things that you can get involved in outside of being a foster parent. And the other thing is too, it could look different. You might be one of these things at different stages of your life and kind of change that.
Foster parenting isn't necessarily set out to be like, once I do this, I'm doing it for life. Honestly, anybody can be a foster parent for a short amount of time. At the same time, maybe you're at the stage of your life, it's not really a possibility. And so we just want to talk through some other ways. Now, the Bible does talk about how as Christians, we should be the ones caring for the fatherless and the widows. And there are several passages in the Bible about that. Later in James 2, it says, you know, suppose a brother or sister is in need of clothes or food, and you say, well, go, I wish you well, but you don't do anything about it. You know, what good is that? And so sometimes you can feel like super bad about situations, and you're like, well, what do I do? Like, how do I get involved? Well, like, we just want to give you some practical ways. And one way is to step alongside of a foster family in your church or in your community.
And our church has been amazing about this. We've had people from our small group, other small groups from our student ministry that we're a part of.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that, yeah.
Yeah, like people that are like signed up and created a meal train and brought meals out to us when the kids were first placed in our care, which was amazing. We also ended up getting COVID at the time, so it was such a huge help and blessing to have food meals that were delivered for, what was it, 3 weeks?
Yeah, it was 3 weeks. It's just been amazing to see how the body of Christ has really surrounded us.
If you can come alongside of a foster family in your church or in your community, it's a huge blessing and be a huge encouragement to them for sure.
So if you want ideas on like how to even get connected with someone, like just maybe ask your leadership at church, or like maybe you can just call your local DCS office and be like, hey, here's my number, please give it out to a foster family that is just going through the process.
And Facebook groups are incredible too. Like that's how you got connected to a lot of people at our church. And Lisa just posted on there that, you know, we had the 3 kids coming in and here were the things we were kind of looking for. And people
just dropped up stuff at the door, and it was great. Yeah. Another way to help a foster family is honestly just to listen to them and be there. Just kind of check in with them. I had a really good friend after a Bible study a couple of weeks ago just look at me and said, hey, how are you doing? And I said, not good. I just at that point just felt like the worst mom ever. I was being very short-tempered in my responses with the kids, and I really just needed someone to talk to. We've got plugged into an awesome, great local foster care closet that has been such a blessing. The person that runs the foster care closet, she had been a foster parent at one point, but is not a foster parent anymore, but still has such a heart for foster kids and foster youth that she runs this foster care closet.
Another thing you can do is respite care. It is a short-term care where you watch the kids and basically give the foster family or foster parents a break.
You're like, you know what, I maybe don't have the capability, or my schedule is so crazy that I don't always know day to day, but like I have sometimes like a weekend free or like this week free, and that you'd be able to say yes. And so the nice thing is they would give you a call and you'd be like, look at your schedule and be like, can I do this weekend? Yes, I can do this weekend. And so that is super nice to be able to have that. And you can even be respite, which would be for other foster families, or you could be an emergency placement, which is when DCS has to pool a child without like, there wasn't any previous like steps, there wasn't like a plan set up. For whatever reason, that child had to be pooled immediately. And if that child doesn't have a place to go, they might just spend the night in the DCS office, which is not cool.
So speaking of that situation where kids are removed right away, there's a ministry called Isaiah 117 House that reaches out and ministers to these kids while they're waiting for a placement. If an Isaiah 117 house is available, the caseworker can drop the kids off at this house. A volunteer that's in that house can just connect with that child, talk with them, be a listening ear and encouragement to them as they're going through this really rough time. Make their favorite meal, give them some new clothes, possibly toys, whatever, some basic needs they might have, but just really connect with them so that they don't have to be in the office listening to the caseworker, making these phone calls, trying to find a family for them.
So Isaiah 117 is a ministry that started in Tennessee, and that have houses all over the country. If there's not one in your area yet, maybe consider connecting and starting one. Like, that is a huge like time commitment, I get, and I have wanted to reach out. I still want to reach out and like be like, I would love to like be there when like the kids come in and you know, make their meal or just like play with them. But at the same time, like I realize like right now, like that would take away from our current kids, and so I probably shouldn't stretch myself too thin. That's why it takes the body of Christ to really come together, and it takes many people in the foster care system. You know, not all are Christians, we get that, but why not Christians? Why not more of us be involved in all these different areas? So in this book, he also talks about finding your something. He says part of venturing down the foster care path is discovering the unique, specific role into which God is asking you to step, and in so doing to identify with clarity and confidence those places to which He isn't leading you. I repeat, we aren't all called to the same thing, but each of us is capable of contributing something, and it's essential for you to identify your something. So how can you go about doing that? He suggests to pray, share with your community, and do some research. So the opportunities to get involved are as unique and diverse as each individual member of your church or community. Everyone has something to offer, whether it's barbecue, babysitting, a gift card, a temporary home to live in, or a new forever family. While we aren't all called to do the same thing, each of us is certainly capable of doing something. Find your something.
Other ways you can get involved too are, of course, you know, you could go into social work, so be like a caseworker, that's dealing with the kids. You can be an attorney,
a judge,
a judge, very important as well. You can be a CASA, a court-appointed special advocate that represents the kids. There's so many different things you can do, and Lisa made another video about that.
Yep.
What was that called?
How many people are involved in a foster child's life, and so you can check that video out, because that kind of shows you the different areas kind of that you could kind of get involved besides just being a foster parent. And then of course we haven't talked about this, but this will kind of lead us into our second point, is prayer. Foster parents, foster children, biological parents, the caseworkers, the visit supervisors, the CASA, all of us need prayer. In fact, right before I started making this video, I just texted one of my good friends and said, hey, we're about to start filming this video. Can you pray for us? And she's like, great, I'm cooking dinner. I'll be praying for you. I love having her as a prayer warrior in our life, and she texts us like encouraging messages, and sometimes it comes at just the right time when I've just dealt with crazy amount of stuff, and just that prayer and knowing people are praying for you is huge, and that is because the second point, and that is that foster care is spiritual warfare. There's a lot going on that we do not see. The devil, he wants to rip families apart, and he's going to do that through addictions, through abuse, and through all these other things, because his goal is to seek, kill, and destroy.
And that's something that we really have to recognize is, you know, the biological parents are not the enemy.
They're not the
enemy.
enemy.
The devil's the enemy, and sin is the enemy.
It was talking about this biological mom named Sandra, and it said, people like Sandra don't need our judgment. They need our presence. They need us to step into their lives, to walk along with them and show them Jesus through the way we live. They need us to believe in them, mentor them, and invest in them. These vulnerable parents aren't the enemy. The enemy is the one who sneaks about like a roaring lion, seeking whom he can destroy. The enemy is the one who kills, steals life, and works tirelessly to destroy. Let's make sure we're fighting the real enemy and be there for those who are hurting, broken, and forgotten.
There's a book called Bondage Breaker by Neil Armstrong that's really good. It's one that I reread a second time during the beginning of our placement because we were just seeing some things that it just really felt like spiritual warfare. I think that's one thing that's really important to recognize. Like, the secular world won't necessarily recognize that aspect of life. I mean, this is part of all of our life, no matter if you're in foster care or not. Like, we're all going through spiritual warfare.
Yep.
All the training that we do that talks about how to deal with trauma and all this stuff is really good, but if it misses out and doesn't include the spiritual aspect, it's not gonna be fully effective.
So in the chapter Foster Care is Spiritual Warfare, he talks about the real enemy, and it says, if foster care is spiritual warfare, this demands that we properly identify and position ourselves against the real and actual enemy in all of this. Well, these kids' situations oftentimes demand an extreme and just intervention. The enemy against whom we do battle isn't birth parents or broken systems, but Satan. This is the essence of what Paul means in Ephesians 6:12 when he points out that we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. Spiritual warfare defined. This is what makes it entirely possible for us to be against the destructive actions of biological parents, but still for the redemptive pursuit of their souls. Against what they've done, but still ultimately for them. We are for them. They aren't the enemies. They're humans. Broken people in need of redemption, just like you and me. One of the most liberating truths for those entrenched in the battle of foster care is this: if Satan is the real enemy, then Jesus is the ultimate hero. That means by implication that we don't have to be. With Jesus the hero, we're freed from the burden of bearing the weight of redemption that only he was intended to carry.
If you like books, one book that I've been reading recently is recommended from our youth pastor at church is this book called Gentle and Lowly, The Heart of Christ for Sinners and Sufferers. It mentioned how the only time in the Bible where Jesus describes his heart is that he's gentle and lowly. And this book just really dives into the fact of just how much God loves us and comes to us where we are. It's about plugging into Jesus, giving our lives to Jesus, surrendering to him, and allowing him to work in our lives to change us and mold us into who he wants us to be.
So we hope this video encourages you to step into foster care in some way. Thank you for your prayers. Thank you for all those that personally have poured into our life and these kids' lives. And we just want to encourage you to maybe seek out a local foster family to you and just start pouring into them and the kids that they may have in care. So thanks so much for watching, and we'll probably plan on making a part 3. So subscribe if you're not already, and let us know kind of what you think Christians should know about when it comes to foster care. I mean, maybe we can include some of those in the next video. Bye guys.
See ya. At the end of the day, there's a ton of stuff you can do. Not everybody is going to be involved in any piece of this foster care thing, and that's fine. Yeah. Like, it takes, and that's what we should probably voice and recognize, that it takes a team. It takes people doing everything. You need janitors, you need teachers, you need police officers, you need people working in foster care. You need everything. Yeah. And like, it's not like we're saying do whatever you're doing and you got to do something with foster care too. And if you don't, you're a terrible Christian. That's not what we're saying.
No, we're not saying that. Okay, so how about you? I liked how you said that, but can you say that in a more concise way, like way that...
And talk to the camera.
And talk to the camera, not just me, yeah. I actually have several friends who are single foster parents.
Frother?
Frother. Makes me not a barista. Oh, goodness. I mean, maybe we can include some of those in the next video.
What have we not covered yet?
Well, I'm sure there's tons more we've not covered, but you know, we're just trying to hit, like, we've not covered a lot, but.
Or what did we not cover well? What was the question of one of these as a follow-up?
I am